Ainz's undivided attention was on his opponent's every move. After all, even trivial intel could tip the balance of a fight. What was unsettling to him was the fact that his opponent, since their debut, had not shown any emotional response at all. Since their appearance, they had stood still in one spot with a daunting pose. Was it because they had not taken any damage, they had not bled at all, that they had resorted to such showmanship? It was impossible for them to have not taken any damage at all. It was hard for Ainz to believe that it had taken the full brunt of his explode mine, but all it did was sully that eye-catching armor with dust. Even with Ainz's necromancy job classes, it was still impossible for him to gain complete immunity to the damage of a high-tier spell. It was impossible without underhanded tricks, especially because Explode Mine's damage type was non-elemental. It could not have been nullified so simply. In that case, did their carefree attitude stem from them toughing it out, or was it from their do-or-die resolve? Or perhaps, they really had an ability to nullify the damage. Did you think that I would just stand here without taking any precautions? There are more around you. He tried to gauge his opponent's reaction through conversation, or at least that was what he had intended anyways. His opponent, however, did not give him much chance to speak, as the armored fellow unabashedly took an offensive stance. The hammer in their arsenal floated to where they could easily grab it. That revealed a piece of intel to Ainz, causing him to gently laugh deep down in his heart. This meant that their target was not Albedo, but Ainz himself. Since they had not bothered to converse with Ainz at all, they were not trying to buy time. They were probably planning to end this fight before any backup could arrive. If they had appeared from the sky and began talking to him, that would have meant that their target was Albedo, or that they were both their targets. Everything up till this point had occurred well within the margins of Ainz's plan. However, not even Ainz could predict his opponent's next move. Since their weapons moved with them, he had thought that they were the fighter type, and would want to close the distance between them. Instead, his opponent moved his hand in a somatic gesture, causing the giant hammer to suddenly shoot forward. So fast. It was like a high-level warrior had lobbed it at him. Ainz could not dodge it at all. If this weapon were not enchanted, it would be nullified by his immunity to non-enchanted projectiles, but no matter which way Ainz sliced it, it had to be enchanted. If that was the case, Ainz stood still, mimicking the stance his opponent had adopted as he took the hit. Of course, the spell activated the moment the hammer connected with Ainz's body. The bludgeoning damage was completely nullified by the body of Effulgent Barrel spell. His gaze had remained on his opponent this entire time, observing his every move. In that moment, his opponent stopped moving, probably out of shock that he had taken 0 damage. The hammer returned to its original position as fast as it had been launched, floating around the enemy. Muahahaha. Ainz laughed loudly with his arms extended outwards to show that he was unscathed. Do you understand now? As I am sure you are aware, skeletons are weak to bludgeoning attacks. That is true for me too. So did you really believe that I would not take precautions against it? That I would be so stupid? That's right. Ainz patted his own body. I am immune to bludgeoning damage. While he was sneering, his opponent did not seize the opportunity to attack. What does that mean? Ainz contemplated. If he made a mistake here, he might not be able to salvage the situation. The enemy landed, raised a hand, and spoke. Their voice was that of a male's. World-isolating barrier. With his foe as the origin, a space-warping shockwave passed by Ainz. If it continued to expand in its initial form, this place would be encompassed in a dome. Its size was immense, at least a kilometer wide. Albedo and the other guardians should all be outside of its range. Ainz's mind spooled up as he deliberated. This was one of the oldest tricks in the book, to cut off an enemy's connection to the outside world. Then, how hard would it be to break in? Would it be able to prevent someone from running in? Would teleportation still work? Its affected area of effect also had to be considered. Since it was a dome, could someone enter it through the ground? And most important of all, could he destroy it through any means? He was severely lacking in intel and thus could not be certain of anything, but he could at the very least make some rudimentary inferences. First of all, his opponent knew that Ainz was a magic caster for sure, so this should at the very least be able to block teleportation spells. Unless he had a reason to not use the world-class item that could dominate minds, this person was not the one who brainwashed Sheltier. What if there was a specific reason why he did not use it? Questions continued to pile on, but one thing he was certain of was that he should not underestimate this enemy. That was because Ainz had mastery over a wide range of spells and special abilities. From the experience he had gathered through experimentation, he knew their full capabilities. This placed Ainz at the top of Nazarick in terms of battle tactics. However, the ability this enemy had just used, Ainz could not recall. An ability that would cover this much ground had to be from a super-tier spell or world-class item. This meant that his opponent had easy access to, and immediate use of, skills that could rival the heights of those abilities. He was undoubtedly a strong enemy. Someone who could remove Ainz and the other level 100 floor guardians from the picture. However, faced with this enemy, Ainz did not emote at all. Of course, Ainz's face could not emote anyways, but his uncertainty could still be observed through his attitude and tone. Ainz would never do something so unsightly. At the same time, he could not allow the enemy to perceive Ainz's joy and relief. The thought of it was wise for me to have been the one to face him came to mind. Ainz squinted his eyes and continued to observe him. Though this was an unknown ability, he could still pick up on certain aspects of it. First, this was an ability that expended HP in quite a lot of it. Given that, this barrier could not be cosmetic only. If he could not figure out its exact effects, he would be in deep trouble. Ainz had seen his opponent's immediate loss of HP when he had activated that ability through his Life Essence spell. Mana Essence picked up nothing in contrast, meaning that his foe was of a pure warrior build with no mana at all. If the mysterious enclosure was an inescapable prison, it would not be odd for his opponent, who had effectively imprisoned Ainz in this dome, to relax a little. Ainz began to calmly ask a question with that in mind. He used an uncharacteristically gentle tone given he had just been smacked with a hammer. I will pardon your prior ambush. I do believe that you already know of my name, but do allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the Sorcerer King Ainz. Now then, it is your turn. Could you tell me your name? After a few seconds of silence, he received a reply. Riku Agnia. Ainz immediately began to analyze the information he had just gained. The likelihood that this barrier not only prevented his escape, but also prevented reinforcements from making their way in just increased drastically. The fact that he would risk exposing intel meant that he was trying to tell him, you can't escape and also, your reinforcements won't make it in. In the documents compiled by Sebas and Demiurge, there were no mentions of the name Riku. Someone this strong would not have slipped through their information-gathering network. Even if he was a hermit, there were still things that could not be explained. In any case, someone this strong would have surely ended up in the kingdom's history books. For there to be no records of him at all was absurd. The most likely explanation was that he had been given an alias. But why would he give him an alias? If he was from the kingdom, he should have proudly declared his name and his intention to destroy the root of all evil that had started this war. Was it because he was someone who wished to remain anonymous of his own volition? Another possibility was that he was trying to draw Ainz's aggression towards the real Riku Agnia, or perhaps the knowledge of his true name gave Ainz power over him or something. Although it was essentially pure wilderness when those lands came under his rule, they had still gathered quite a bit of intel from the demi-human residents of that land. Of the intel they gained, one was about the connection some had between their true name and soul, and how one could become more susceptible to curses, should their true name become known. However, after much investigation by Nazarg, they could not find conclusive proof of such a phenomenon. They had relegated this intel as plain folk legend. So was it possible that Riku was of a tribe that held similar beliefs? He had little to no intel. This was not the most ideal situation for him to make deductions here and there. As far as he could remember, there were only two powerful beings with connections to platinum. One of which was not a humanoid, the other was. I have heard through the bard's songs, the heroic tale of the 13 heroes. Quite a few of their names have been lost, though I do recall one of them wearing an armor forged in platinum. If I remember correctly, his name was Riku Agnia. Will those bards not be elated to find out that their tales were true? Would they? I did not know that I was renowned enough for bards to sing of my name. His foe did not shrug, nor did he make any movements as he answered calmly. Was he truly one of the 13 heroes, or was he an impostor? There might be details that he was missing. Good grief, Ainz thought. What was true and what was false, it was hard for him to tell. But, given how his opponent was confident enough in himself to face off against the Ainz, who could handily defeat an army of 200,000 with a single spell, the full extent of his capabilities must be explored in this battle. Riku, do you mind me addressing you by this name? Denied. An immediate answer, one filled with palatable disgust in tone. That was rude of me. Perhaps that was too familiar of an address. Shall I refer to you as Agnia then? Would you still mind? That is fine. Oh, well then, I have a proposal for you. Become my subordinate, how about it? The air around Riku froze a bit. He did not take a stance, nor did he move at all. Riku just stood there completely unfazed. Ainz could not figure him out. If Riku viewed him as an inferior, it would make sense why he did not take a stance at all. After all, Cocytus was the same during his battle with the lizardman. So, was Riku looking down on him or not? He felt different compared to Cocytus back then. So, perhaps that already was the stance he intended to take for this battle. He might have planned to stand in one place and have his floating weapons do all the work for him, which was why he had adopted such a battle stance. Looks like I've been rejected. How regretful. Could I implore you once more? I am currently trying to recruit powerful individuals into my services. Even that moment of darkness has been happily under my employ. If you are willing to become my subordinate, I would even end my conquest of the kingdom right here. You alone are worth more than this country. Denied. If words could kill, Ainz would have been slain instantly. There was not a single shred of hesitation in his voice. Without showing any emotion, Ainz began to ponder the hidden meanings behind their little back and forth just now. Even if he had the confidence that he could defeat Ainz and save the kingdom, did he truly have no doubts or hesitations? Even if Ainz was killed, was he truly certain in his belief that the Sorceress Kingdom's army would just give up? Perhaps he does not care about the kingdom after all. Is he from another nation? Cloak of Light. Riku's armor began glowing. For a brief moment, Ainz thought that it was the sun reflecting off of his armor until he noticed that Riku's HP had just decreased. That was undoubtedly the activation of some sort of ability. Now he had concrete proof. Riku's abilities were powered by his own health pool. However, because lost HP could just be recovered through restoration spells or potions, abilities that were powered by HP were usually weaker by comparison. All in all, the higher the ability's HP cost, the stronger it would be. The same logic should apply even in this world.